Hi there. My name is Colin Goldberg, and I'm here with artist Andrea Bonaceto, who's an Italian artist based in the UK. And we're here to talk a little bit about his work and specifically his recent work with NFTs. So, Andrea, would you like to just open up with telling us a little bit about your background, such as where you're born and your cultural influences and things like that?
Yeah, sure, Colin. So my background is quite weird because it's quite scattered, right? There are many things. I do not have a formal art background. My background is mostly, on the business and finance side. So I have a degree in economics, another one in finance, and I'm an entrepreneur as well. I'm investing in the blockchain space since quite some time. But really, this process for me has been of trying to be myself more and more. And I always knew that I always knew who I was. So I knew that I always had a strong inclination for art on many forms. And to be honest, what happened with non-fungible tokens, digital art is amazing for me because it really came at the right time and it was at the right place because I was really looking at the development of that technology very closely. So I basically saw that as a very innovative way to basically deliver my, artistic message, let's call it that way. And and yeah, that's basically what I did. So it wasn't a very structured approach. I don't have really a say, yeah, I did that because I want to do that, I want to do that. It really came through organically and naturally, and that's in general how I like to live. And yeah, I'm when I look back now, I can reconnect, the dots. But when I was there, looking at all the different, variables and directions that my life could have taken, I really, tried to do what I felt deep inside me was more coherent. Let's say was, yes, more coherent with myself. Of course, it's always difficult. I think maybe it's impossible to be truly yourself, 100% yourself. But I'm trying to, be as close as possible, basically, to that ideal.
Gotcha. And you were born in Italy, correct? And you're now in
Yes,
London?
exactly. I was born in Italy, so I was just born in Pisa. Then I was shipped to Viareggio, which is quite close by. It's a small city with 60,000 inhabitants, close to Pisa by the sea, where I was raised and lived most of my life. And then I came to London 7 years ago, and now I'm in London.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, like I saw an interview recently with a journalist, and one thing that he said was, save the best for first when it comes to doing an interview. So, recently, actually a couple of weeks ago, I saw you on our local news here in New York, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but basically it was a story about, an artist who did a collaboration with a robot and minted an NFT as part of this collaboration that sold at auction for somewhere around 700,000 US dollars. And I saw that it was your artwork and I recognized it from when we had spoken a couple months ago, when you first got involved with Techspressionism. So I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. So I looked it up, and I know you had mentioned that you were involved in this, collaboration, or I'd seen like an earlier news story that you had been working on a drop that would be this collab, and then I saw what the work sold for, and that really seemed to make headlines. It seems like a lot of the what actually ends up in the news about NFTs is has something to do with the price that an NFT sells at, which I think, it's good and bad.
Mhm.
It brings the technology into the public eye in a way that, I find that most um, stories about art, they only sort of escape art media into general mass media when it's about a large sum of money, a sale or something like that. That seems
Yeah.
like the way the general public starts to, you know, but I think what's truly interesting about this story is the aspect of how you actually collaborated with this robot and, the AI driving the robot. So, maybe if you could just tell us a little bit more about that, that project and how it came about and
Yeah.
some of the ideas behind it.
So about the money part first, that I completely agree with you, and that's very sad in society in general, because unless there is a headline saying that you made a lot of money, people don't really take you seriously. So even to me, I'm investing in the blockchain space. I'm doing like several things. And then when I come up, with the art that I do, people, they're like, okay, whatever, they really don't take you seriously, you see, unless you then make a substantial amount of money to something. It's a problem. I know. I don't like that as well. But in this capitalistic society, unfortunately, that's how it looks. But in fact, now when I'm talking to people, I try to convey that message that what I really cared about was to do something very profound from an artistic standpoint, that was innovative, and I enjoyed the process. I was happy, going through the process. And the drop itself, was like, whatever, it wasn't really the point. The point was what basically led us to that, the process of collaborating with Sofia, looking at the artworks with Sofia's creator, David Hanson. That was very profound, insightful. Even, as an artist, it showed me what I could do, like with my work, like I like to think always, that we can improve, right, in everything in life. So it really showed me many different directions that what I do could have taken. Then, of course, the economic, like the financial result was very good. It's something that is important mostly for the possibility to then amplify the message, that for me really goes beyond even art, but it's really towards a society that can be more inclusive with less, inequality, where, through NFTs, even creators that are small creators can actually get a living and can be rewarded for the art they create. Because the problem is that take at models like, even YouTube, Spotify, right? Because NFTs also has a lot of impact, not only with digital art, but also with music, with hybrids of digital art and music. Musicians are paid on Spotify something like 0.0005 dollars per stream. Like, unless you are Justin Bieber or like a very famous star, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to you, right? In fact, I also have a basking license here in London. I play the guitar, and I used to go before the pandemic quite often to a place called Spiritual Bar, and there, I think I met, the people that they could be very, very. They could be basically another coin. They could be the next Bob Dylan from a quality standpoint, but because it's something that is not trendy from a mainstream standpoint. And on Spotify, they wouldn't go into that level of complexity. They do not see their message amplified, And I'm hoping that through NFTs, they now have a way to actually amplify that message and monetize even small crowds of people, that are very loyal to you and they may be happy to pay, certain amounts if you do something very, high profile and original for them. So that was the point. Then
Gotcha.
going
Yeah,
back
it
to
seems like
Sofia.
the philosophy of blockchain in general, the DeFi sort of decentralized finance, it speaks to social change, and when I interact with people that are involved in sort of the DeFi community or blockchain developers in general, there's usually like a pretty strong philosophical component to their work.
Definitely.
That is, they believe in the reasons why blockchain a blockchain-based economy should exist, and I think that that's sort of I think from people who are on an outside view, it's hard to understand how that's really different philosophically from traditional capitalism, but it is empowerment of the individual, and then when the NFT phenomenon started, that sort of extends that philosophical movement to artistic creation, I think, in a way, which is
Yeah.
where it becomes really interesting. I remember seeing your portraits, and I think in the very beginning when I was seeing your portraits, most of them were actually traditional, like acrylic
Yeah.
paintings. And, like I saw that you were tagging your work with NFT and blockchain. And then I looked at the work and most of them were like acrylic on canvas. I was like, what's
Yeah.
up with this guy? And then that's when I first messaged you. And then I think we started corresponding, and then you started doing these vector portraits that I thought were definitely, pretty interesting. And, so maybe like probably what would be helpful is if you could just let us know, or let the viewers know a little bit about Sofia and Sofia's creator, and sort of what that's all about, and how you came in contact with both the robot and its creator.
Yeah, so the story is quite funny. So basically, a friend of mine, Marcello Mari, that is basically connected with Sofia, spotted my portraits on Instagram, and he wrote me and he said, nice portraits, but one major question, where is my portrait? I'm like, okay, send me a picture and I'm gonna make a portrait of yourself as well. So he did that, I did his portrait. And then, I already had basically a slot for Nifty Gateway. And I thought, okay, let's try to think about something that is really innovative, as a first step into the NFT space. That could really be historical also for the entire NFT industry. And then, I basically proposed him to go and do something with Sofia, where Sofia could look at my artworks, reinterpret my artworks, and this could be like basically the first major collaboration between an AI humanoid robot and a human, so myself. He liked a lot the idea. I did the portraits of David Hanson, Sofia's creator, and Ben Gozel, the AI mastermind behind Sofia and Sofia. And then we basically had a call all together where I showed them the portraits. They were all like, amazing, yeah, we should do it, let's do it. David himself is, first and foremost an artist. Sofia herself is a work of art.
Where's the lab based out of?
Hong Kong.
Gotcha.
So imagine we did all this together completely remotely. Me in London, they were in Hong Kong, and the gallery supporting the project, Ivy Gallery, was in LA. And this is also crazy, right? That you can now deliver something like that fully digital, and regardless from where you're based. This is also something very important, because it's even about access to opportunities, right? I think in the future, you won't anymore need to go, to LA, London. Of course, you can go there sometimes. It's going to help you in some ways, but you shouldn't basically be there all the time. There are going to be ways, and this is another big trend that I'm very interested about, that it probably is a separate interview by itself, the Metaverse, where everything is an NFT, basically a parallel world where anything is represented by an NFT, because NFTs are digital artworks, but an NFT can also be a house, can also be a art museum, can also be a guitar. And so, you can put a headset on and be into these digital worlds where you can go out, hang out with people that you meet in form of avatars, go visit a museum, look at some artworks, buy the artworks. Like, you can engage with these people in this way. And yeah, it's amazing. I think, the future is going to go there. And
sure.
that's
I
also
just got
why I like
an Oculus recently.
exactly.
I got a Oculus Quest recently, and had my first sort of, experience being in a virtual space with live people as avatars, and it's pretty remarkable. I mean, it's something that I have experienced on the desktop in things like Second Life and stuff like that, but to be in the space in an immersive way, it really is something pretty different.
One thing I would add is, so Second Life, this is good. Basically now what you can do is having Second Life in a way that is fully decentralized on the blockchain, where every object in Second Life, you actually own it in the form of an NFT if you want. You can buy a house on Second Life. There are real estate agencies for the Metaverse where you can go and build a massive house. I know people that created very big art museums where then they collaborate, with digital artists to actually expose their artworks in the Metaverse. And as I said, this is reducing barriers to entry for people into opportunities, into high profile
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. And that's very important.
What so going back to you, personally as an artist, what was it that originally made you want to, pursue visual art, or do you have any specific influences, that you feel sort of inform your work or your style?
So I think in terms of influences, one book I read that was an epiphany for me was concerning the spiritual in art by Kandinsky.
Mm-hmm.
And Kandinsky as well was an artist that started drawing at 30 years old. And I got that book when I was 30 years old. And then I started really frenetically drawing. And I think even, in the portraits that I do, another influence could definitely be Modigliani,
Mm-hmm.
that is also from Tuscany, like myself. So he's from Livorno, and I really like his
Would you want
work.
to share your screen and maybe pull up maybe your Instagram or something like that, so the viewers could sort of see some of
Yeah,
your
yeah,
portraits and stuff like
I
that?
can.
That would be great.
Give me a second,
I noticed
and
you
I
had did
share it.
like done some sort of like Elon Musk, or I think you did Bob Dylan too, right? People that
Yeah,
just
I do.
you like
So
to.
I do portraits and as well abstract, artworks.
Hmm.
So I like
Yeah,
to,
I've seen some of that.
basically keep doing both. So okay, let
Hmm.
me share my screen.
Yeah, that's interesting that you brought up Kandinsky, because I mean, Techspressionism really is something that I see as an outgrowth of Expressionism, and Expressionist thought, where it's about an internal emotional experience versus sort of portrayal of the outside world, and I think that that's something that probably more so in your abstract work I see, but certainly in the way that you treat your portraiture subjects as well, I
Mm.
think. Um,
I think I need to give access to Zoom for my screen,
oh,
and he's asking me to quit the app
gotcha.
and restart. So
Let me
maybe,
let
do
me
you
see
want,
if I
Colin?
could
I can
I
send
could
you a
make
link.
you try it now. Let's see. I tried making you a co-host. Let's see if that
Let's see. Ah,
yeah, there
okay,
we go.
cool. You're right.
Cool.
Perfect. It works. So let me. Yeah. So these are some of my artworks. So these are some that were actually sold during the drop on Nifty Gateway. Like, this is probably what you saw on the news.
Mhm.
Sofia's face, Sofia instantiation, and basically what we did during the drop on Nifty Gateway for this set of artworks was to basically show the transition from my artwork to Sofia's artwork, and then back to mine. They were like
Mm.
loops, like infinite
Mhm.
loops, videos.
Looks like
Um,
almost like CD-ROMs or DVDs in the retinas of the eyes. I don't know if that's
yeah,
your intention or just
it's
my
true
own association.
because Sofia has cameras, right, in her
Oh,
eyes.
okay. Right.
So it was, let's say, different compared to portraying, regular eyes.
Mm.
Yeah, so you can see it.
Mhm. And,
But
and do you call them vectorial portraits, right? Do you draw in a vector-based like a format, or?
I do, yeah. So these are all vectorial. So the ones that you see
Mm.
here, the latest ones, are all vectorial. Then these, like
Nice.
this Pessoa, is actually acrylic.
Right.
Um, and then, there are more abstract ones that I did as well,
Mhm.
which, I will be doing, more and more. Like, this actually is one that I have in my room. And yeah,
I
as you
think it's
see,
interesting, like, like at first, I think I only saw your traditional work. Like when I first looked at your feed, I think it was almost all just straight paintings,
mhm,
and I think it's interesting to see that your style translated pretty directly when you shifted over to digital drawing. That is, you really uh, can't tell the difference too much as far,
yeah,
like it isn't like all of a sudden your work became full of fractals and digital looking, and
yeah,
I think people have an association with digital art that it all looks a certain way.
yeah,
And that's definitely one of the stereotypes that I think, is um, damaging to people working digitally, is the idea that it all necessarily looks the same, or um,
yeah. No, definitely. But in fact, many people looking at my Instagram couldn't even tell whether these are digital or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, they are with acrylic color, so the color is very homogeneous, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
it, it really goes very well with, you know, vectorial art and digital art, because of basically how I naturally do things. So it was like a natural step for me to basically start doing it digitally as well.
Gotcha. Do you work from a photograph usually when you do your drawings, or do you ever work from life, from like a model?
So the portraits, yes, I normally start with a photograph, and then, you know, I do my own, you know, interpretation.
Hmm. So with Sophia, there was an image also that had her sort of additions to it, right? Where the robot actually colored it in some way or added some component to the
Yes, yes.
painting.
You want me to stop sharing, or you want to keep seeing the screen?
Is that an image that you have online anywhere that we could see? The piece that was sort of the collaborative version?
Actually, we could probably. So, because if you go on Nifty and you search me, there you go, open edition. I think you're talking about this video. So this one.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So this is
Interesting.
this was basically Sofia reimagining my drawings. So this is based, you know, if you see also the ear, and it's based from Sophia's portrait that I did, and then also, you know, animated. So then there are these were sold as so-called open editions, meaning that anyone could buy them for 5 minutes, and we would mint as much as, you know, people wanted for the first 5 minutes, so to meet the demand. And
Nice.
yeah, I'm also happy that
Interesting.
these pieces did very well in the secondary market. You know, basically many people probably realized that they missed this, you know, drop, and then were quite keen to go and grab a few pieces. So, yeah, you know, for me, it was also important that collectors, you know, whoever, you know, backed this project
Mm-hmm.
from the very beginning, also on top of, you know, buying art that you know, they liked, they also made a good investment.
Gotcha. So the drop itself then, it wasn't that a single piece sold for seven hundred
No,
thousand
no, no,
dollars. It was
no.
the total number of open editions that sold. I see. So that
Yes.
that's an important piece of information that I didn't know about because I think that the way that the news covers it is that, oh, it's an image, it's a
Exactly.
JPEG, and it's sold for some giant amount of money, and oh, maybe it was like the artist themselves with a different wallet, or some business partner. But when you see that it's
No,
basically
yeah,
like a large number of editions, then it makes it
there are
is
more
a further
pieces actually.
explanation.
There are
Yeah,
more
and
pieces.
like I feel like that, like we were talking about in the beginning, how the capitalistic sort of society, only pays attention to like big dollar sign numbers when it comes to art stuff. But it's also, I mean, those like transactions are what secures work in art history in a way. It's like, why does something end up in a museum? Well, it's
Mhm.
because through the provenance of that piece, it exchanged hands and accumulated
Yeah,
value through time. And
yeah,
and for better or worse, that's just kind of like the society that we live in. So,
yeah.
but it's really interesting. I'm actually, I dropped my very first NFT on Foundation yesterday, and I'm really excited, like to be getting into this space. And we're putting together a show for Techspressionism that's going to be opening up during Freeze Week, actually, called NFT Now, and that's something that I'm excited about, that we were able to start working with an artist by the name of Ann Spalter, who she shows on Super Rare and has been on some panels there and stuff like that, talking about female collectors and female artists working with blockchain-based
Hmm.
work. And I think that um, like the blockchain and NFTs, they don't have the patriarchal system built into it, the way that the traditional art world does in a lot of ways. So people who are, of minorities or female artists, like can actually become involved. You know, it's something that I think there's fewer barriers to entry. I mean, there's certainly still gatekeepers, for these curated platforms, but I think it's newer than say the traditional gallery and museum system is, and I
Yeah.
think that system is sort of getting picked apart now a lot because of the social components that people find problematic about it. And I noticed like a lot of your work too, like some of the subjects might be dealing with social issues, you
Yes,
know.
definitely.
Mhm.
No,
Mhm.
100%, agree with you. And there were multiple pieces also, as you said, sold during the drop. The headline was mostly around the auction piece that went
Right.
for around $700,000. But I think the overall amount of art that we sold during the drop was like $1.3 million.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
and also on the secondary market, the activity was, you know, very, very high, which was good. But as I said, really the point is that I think something very profound was done, and we're really looking forward, to doing more collaborations like that. And as well, myself, I will do activities, of course, as a solo artist.
Mhm.
And yeah, and
So are you going to
I'm
quit
looking forward to
your
that,
day
Sofia.
job in finance, or are you going to keep
No,
doing that
I
as well?
don't.
Mm,
Let me
I
one
mean,
second.
they overlap obviously and intersect in a
Yeah,
lot of ways.
basically the way I see it is that I don't like to think that I have a job, in the sense that I do what I'm interested in, and I'm definitely interested in innovation and technology and looking at new trends. And also the reason why the idea of doing this collaboration with Sofia came about was because of my interest in investing in the blockchain space and in the NFT space. So you
Absolutely.
know I think we shouldn't operate, in a silos. And sometimes the society always pushes us to do that. To say they want to label you and say, "Oh, you're an investor, you're an artist, you're a lawyer, whatever," right? But
Mhm.
I do like to live in a way which is fluid. And I think the phases where society evolved the most, where when actually society was organized in a very fluid way. Look at the ancient Greeks, where or even the Romans, that you had emperors that were also philosophers, very, very profound philosophers. Or you had mathematicians that were doing study around meteorology, they were doing mathematics and other things. So yeah, I mean, it's just how human beings are. It's just that now, unfortunately, the current model is of pushing people into certain, preset, boxes, and you want them to fake that they are what they're not. And I'm very against this paradigm. And in fact, I want to leverage this, visibility that I'm getting because of the artwork sale, to also express these thoughts that are very important, even go beyond art itself. Is what I would like to see in society from a transition standpoint, to basically move into something where people are able to express themselves, because we can do it. Like from a productivity standpoint, productivity increased exponentially. Capitalism created so much value, so much money, but the problem is that is very unequally allocated, right?
Mhm.
There's a
Mhm.
big gap. And
Sure.
for yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. I think NFTs are playing a role into that process of freeing up people.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, I wanted to ask you, like I know you've been involved in some of the Techspressionist salons and stuff like that since we started doing things, and I totally relate to what you were saying about this idea of having a siloed existence. Like a lot of my day job for the last 20 or 30 years has been in development, web development. And I feel like I've in parallel been making my own work within my studio practice, and now with putting this group together, those two things have been like meshing, and my work in online media and social media, it's helped to formulate and bring these different artists together into a group type of format. And there's this idea of social sculpture that an artist, a German artist by the name of Joseph Beuys, kind of came up with, where it's the idea that society itself can be a medium to work in by formulating structures, organizational structures, and cultivating relationships between people. And to me, that's kind of what Techspressionism is about. And also, obviously, it's a direct outgrowth of expressionist thinking, like people like Kandinsky, or some of the writers that, like Greenberg. He helped sort of capitulate a lot of the ideas that the abstract expressionists were working with. And I just wanted to ask you, like, from your standpoint, what does Techspressionism mean to you, and what do you find interesting about it?
I mean, it was a community that welcomed me, from the very beginning, and I'm very glad for that. Colin, I think what you put together is very, profound and makes a lot of sense, and is also, syncing with technology, right? This is very important. Like, we are in a phase where technology is impacting all our lives, and yeah, and is impacting also the world of art. So I think this goes very well with NFTs, and is basically positioned in the right way. So for me, it was also very important, to meet people with sensibilities, similar to mine, sharing ideas. I appreciate that community element that you put together, and I think there is a lot to learn, from other people, and I'm
I mean,
happy, to share
you're
my
one of the
views.
people that really explained NFTs to me very early on, because you'd been involved, as an investor and a finance person within the blockchain space. So I remember when we did that initial call, it must have been a couple months ago now, where you sort of like, I think I was getting involved in going on Rarible, and you might have had
Yeah.
some stuff there on that platform, and you sort of explained to me, like, oh, this is what you need to do, establish like a local wallet. And I had bought some Bitcoin back in the day when it was all in the news, and sort of eventually kind of lost interest to some degree in cryptocurrencies. But then it started coming back, and then when I started learning about NFTs, I was really sort of eager to learn. So I appreciate that sort of initial interaction. And like, and you're going to be presenting some of your work at the next salon, which I'm excited about. Hopefully you're still interested in doing that on the 13th. Actually, we had our salon yesterday, we were talking a little bit about it, and the members there, all the other artists were excited to, see your presentation and hear what you have to say. And, we're actually opening up. We decided that we have this collab project that some of the artists got paired up, to pass digital files back and forth. So we're going to do like the opening for that, at that same salon, probably after it. There's 3 artists that are going to be presenting, and you're going to be one of those 3 guys. And then we're going to do the presentations, and then do sort of a virtual opening. So it should be a fun event. And
Nice.
I really enjoy the interactions with the other artists, and seeing them interact with each other. I mean, it's something that I miss from graduate school, is when I did my MFA, we would have these critiques where it wouldn't just be digital people, it would be painters and sculptors and glass artists and ceramic artists all doing a crit together. So it became about the ideas surrounding the work, not necessarily shop talk about, oh,
Hmm.
what software did you use? Or, I think when it's all digital people, sometimes it can be, consumed by the process, and people just want to talk about that, But for me, the interesting part is, like, what is the work about, and how does it relate to each person, each artist, as an individual. So it's been cool, getting to know a lot of different artists, and sort of see where they're coming from. And yeah, I mean, I really appreciate your time, coming down for this interview, and look forward to the next salon on the 13th. And that'll be on our YouTube channel too. So do you have, like, are you still continuing to work on portraits now, or I just want to sort of close with, like, what are you working on now, and, like, what do you if you choose to reveal anything, as far as, like, what do you have for future plans, or any
Yeah.
new projects and stuff like that?
I'm still working on a few portraits that I had started, even before I did the drop with Sofia. And I also want to start doing some more abstract stuff. And to be honest, I'm still digesting, what happened last week to then, plan my next steps. But, in general, the approach that I want to follow is to be very mindful about what I mint as an NFT, and whenever I do it, to do it well. So I'll take some time, to think about it, and
Sure. Are you
you'll
going to
be one of the
continue
first to know.
to paint as well?
Sorry?
Are you going to continue to work with,
Of course, of
traditional
course,
paints
of
and stuff
course,
like that as well?
of
Yeah,
course.
nice. Awesome. All right, great. Well, I guess we could wrap it up, and, thank you very much for your time and showing your work. And I look forward to, your presentation in the salon.
Thanks for having me, Colin. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.